happened as this woman did. She came to the prophet of God and she just said to me, help me. My husband is dead. The creditor is coming. He's going to take my boys. It's bad enough if the husband is dead. It's going to be terrible if she loses everything. But rather than giving her a quick fix solution or waving her off and giving her one of the many cliches we have from secular humanism, sometimes from religious cliches, and we just think that that's it, all is well, he gives her an answer which is integral to her participation in its success. Because most times when issues occur, we tend to feel that the answer is going to come from outside. But most times, like people say, the solution is in the problem. The answer is in the question. If we take time to understand, analyze the issue, we may be able to come out with the answer. And so he cried to her for help, and she cried to him, for help. And he in turn turned to her and asked her two questions. Question one is, well, what do you want me to do for you? And that can be interpreted in many ways. One of them could be, I did not get you into this trouble, so what are we going to do? But secondly, it's like, what do you have in the house? What is it that we can start with? What are you bringing to the table that shows your commitment towards getting out of this predicament? I always remember many, many years ago, this must be maybe 2001, about 11, 12 years ago, we had decided to take our choir in Abiding Word Ministries to the nation of Sierra Leone. I was preaching there, and I wanted the choir to just have an exposure outside the country. We had been to Senegal just to go to another country and to see. But I did two things, I remember. Part of it was to help raise funds towards their tickets, 50% towards their ticket. And I asked each member of the choir, some 16 of us then, to try and contribute the other half towards your ticket. So in the space of 2 weeks, people were, doing so many things, and people were putting their monies together. And I remember a particular young lady in one of our West African countries, and her countenance had changed. She sulked. She was just, doing like a small child. And I asked her what was the problem. She said, well, she doesn't have money. She can't raise money. But unfortunately for her, she had 2 cell phones in her hands. So I looked at her and I said, you have money? She said, Pastor, I don't have money. I said to her, sell one of those phones. And as the Bible always puts it, the countenance dropped. Now, here was somebody who wanted to go and sing. She was part of a group. She wanted a free ticket. She wanted free accommodation. She wanted free feeding. She wanted the highlights of being on stage and being popular in another person's country. She wanted everything to be given to her on a platter of silver or gold. She did not want to contribute a thing. And she had all kinds of good excuses. I can't afford it. I'm a student. But she had 2 cell phones. So in my characteristic way, I took one of the phones from her and I said, I will sell it. And of course she got upset. She wouldn't sing during our rehearsal. She was very moody. And I gave her back the phone. And I am not too sure now whether she joined us to Freetown, Sierra Leone or not. But that's the kind of thing I'm saying. Your commitment towards solving a problem must be seen in what you bring to the table. Your commitment is not seen because you talk or because you cry or because you throw a tantrum, roll on the floor, sulk. No. The commitment you bring is seen in what you put down. And so, yes, this woman had a serious problem. She was a widow. As if that was not enough for her in the pains of her heart, the creditor was coming to take her 2 boys away. You would expect, and most people today will expect, the prophet to shout, stomp his feet, shake his wand, do that. Most people do not expect to be educated, do not expect to be processed through how this thing happened and how come they got there and what are the steps to be taken to come out. Most people just want help. And in my life as a pastor, and as I move around, I see people that even sometimes when people ask you for something, all they just want is you to give them that thing and they're done. If you try to walk them through the fact that this thing is not going to help your problem, it's going to magnify your problem, it's going to get you bitter, why ask now for 5 when in 2 years time you can ask for 600? So why don't we plan for 2 years and all they can see is now, now, now. But ladies and gentlemen, when we are faced with situations of crisis that we are trying to come out, one main thing to do, apart from the 4 which I mentioned earlier, is that you must bring something to the table. I believe it also works with even loan facilities and banks and lending agencies. People want to know how serious you are. So what is your collateral? What are you bringing down? What can we fall on? How serious are you? Because if you're serious, you will do something, because giving a title deed or some form of a collateral is a heavy risk. If anything happens, chances are that property is gone or might be sold, and the people recover their monies and give you the change, which change probably will never be able to build again that house. And so whatever it is, you must show commitment. When you do not show commitment, nobody can take you serious in what you are saying. They may just see you as somebody who wants to just get money and go and frivolously spend it. But if you say it's 85,000, it's a huge amount for me, but I have 27,000. Somebody can see, well, you are making effort. And maybe if the next week you say, look, I have 4,500, it may be small, but you are reducing the amount and you are making an effort. So he said to her, what do you have in your house? And whenever we want to come out of situations like that, we're going to have to also look inwardly. What do I have in the house? What can I do? What can I bring to the table? And then she said, her answer was that your maidservant has nothing. Then she said, but a jar of oil, or but a pot of oil, or but a cruse of oil. When you're trying to come out of a situation, another principle to learn is never despise or look down on the very little things around you, because they may be the things that give you your deliverance and bring you to a point of victory that you want. And so the way she answers here looks like she just, well, I have nothing, I just have a little pot of oil. But again, when you are dealing with God's goodness, nothing is too small, nothing is too big. So the prophet answered her and said, go, that means move, do something, borrow vessels from everywhere, or jars or containers from all your neighbors, empty vessels, and do not gather a few. Number 1, get up from where you are and do something. Go and borrow, swallow your pride, ask people, please, may I use this, may I use this, I'll return it when I'm done. Whether they say yes or they say no, they mark it with the initials of their name, or they change the color, or they give it to you, lend it to you, and talk about you afterwards to their friends. It doesn't matter. Where you are is you have a situation, you have a predicament that you need to come out of before it crushes you. So the answer was go, borrow vessels from everywhere, from all your neighbors, empty vessels, and do not borrow a few. Just trust me on this one. God says, borrow plenty. Now, the amount of vessels that were borrowed and the amount of oil that was in that jar, we can safely infer that there was less oil than the jars that were brought, or the containers that were brought by this woman. The dynamics and the practicalities of her walking to people's homes and knocking on the door and asking them for containers and vessels alone is humiliating. But my friends, when you get to a certain point, humiliation does not matter anymore, because you want to come out. If not, you'll be there for the rest of your life, and that one little situation may define your entire life. Meanwhile, you are